Good morning, good day, good evening. My name is Jonathan Regan, also known as New Questions. I'm from blockchaineducation.com.au. Signals, algorithmic signals and calls, and Bitcoin going sideways and altcoins doing crazy stuff. It's been an exciting week. Been a few days since my last update. We're going to have a look at some of the stuff that happened over the weekend. I'm going to start by having a quick look at Bitcoin. As I've been suggesting for the last few weeks, we're still pretty much going sideways. We're running $1,000 above or below that $10,000 level. ADX threshold is really, really low, so we're not really trending. We're just running sideways. Let's have a quick look here. You can see this is pretty much, although we had our recent dump and this recent pump, at the end of the day, we're still in a very, very narrow range in this sort of area, about $1,000 either side of $10,000. So I wouldn't expect very much more from this. We haven't really seen all that much. You know, we're just sitting here. We're just sitting, you know, somewhere between $9,000 and $11,000. We're going to be somewhere in this zone for quite a long time. I think the $10,000 psychological level is a big deal because it's also a 50% Fibonacci retrace from the recent all-time high. So if you imagine that Bitcoin started off being valued at, say, $0 and went to as much as $20,000, a logical 50% retrace brings it back to that $10,000 point. There's also extended longer term moving averages that are running through that area. There seems to be a lot of people taking profit at $10,000. A lot of people are going to be breaking even at that level. So it's going to really require some institutional money to push us above that and to keep us there and to build some sort of support level. Until that happens, we can be assured that a lot of altcoins are going to actually rally. And we've seen over the last, say, week and a half, we've seen a lot of these top 10 coins doing pretty well against Bitcoin. That might be because these altcoins were kind of devalued. They were valued at less than probably what they're actually worth. And as Bitcoin continues to run sideways, showing a lack of real trend strength, a lot of these other coins like Litecoin, Ethereum, Ripple, are actually going to see some of them gain. Let's jump into this camera position here, and I'm going to actually go and have a look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, because that's been quite an interesting one over the last week and a half. We've actually seen a pretty explosive move here. Now let me turn that one on, turn that one off. You can see down here we had some algorithmic entries as it crossed over the 200 moving average, and we've now had a series of kind of higher lows and a series of sort of higher highs. We're coming through here, and Ethereum is actually doing pretty well against Bitcoin. We run out of this area and go as high as it went. It went 8.5% in 5 days, continuing up. We do see now, at this particular time while I'm recording this, the ADX is actually starting to decline. We've got under a threshold and it's gone DA positive. So we may find, coming out of the top of this RSI cave, that Ethereum starts rolling over now. But nonetheless, it's actually done pretty well. Considering Ethereum is one of those sort of coins that you can use up to 100 times leverage on, it's been pretty good for the traders coming in and around, playing with that 50 moving average. Another one that was of interest was Litecoin. I talked about this in one of my recent videos on YouTube, and I suggested that we were going to continue higher and higher, and we've actually made it as high as that 7,500 zone through this like giant candle where some bull tried to push it all the way. The market kind of rejected that area around about the low 7,000s. We can see our entry was down here, and we're currently up around about 10% in the last week. And for a coin like Litecoin, 10% against Bitcoin in a week is actually a really impressive amount, a really good move. Let's have a look at Stellar. Stellar had that recent announcement where they burnt a whole bunch of coins. I threw up a Fibonacci chart here from the recent sort of stair step going up here, up into that sort of 950,000 sat zone. We can see some interesting play around the 200 moving average here. Really interesting places to be accumulating. The 50 moving average came through. This was a really nice entry right here off that 50% retrace. So once again, the 50% retrace, we seem to have a series of higher lows. Will Stellar continue higher? I'm not so sure. We're starting to see a decline in the ADX. The DI value's almost gone DI positive, DI negative rather. And so I think Ethereum, Stellar, and Litecoin may be starting to weaken in these recent uptrends. Stellar running as much as off this 200 moving average. We're now up 25% in 10 days, going as high as 36% off that announcement. So lots of volume, lots of interest in these alternatives to Bitcoin. Now, whether or not you're a Bitcoin maximalist or not, the opportunity to make 20 to 30% in a week or two in other top 10 massive coins with huge liquidity cannot be ignored. And neither can some of the other smaller altcoins, some of the newer ones that are coming onto the market. Let's have a look at some of those now, because everything I'm about to suggest right now was called clearly by our analysts and by our algorithms inside the system multiple times. I'm going to show up the call summary page a little bit later. You can see for yourself all the statistics and all that sort of stuff. But I want you to realize, if you're not a member, that three things. Firstly, we don't miss very much in the industry. If it's actually going up, if there's a chance to make some money, then we're going to let you know about it. It's also inside the system. We've got humans and algorithms running 1-minute checks on the entire market all the time. Number two, if you are a viewer who's thinking about becoming a member, take advantage of our special offer right now. It's not going to last much longer because we're almost into our first 6 weeks of YouTube, and we're going to pull this offer pretty soon. Extremely low discount coupon price. The third thing to keep in mind is we have a refund policy. So if you haven't, if you're sort of sitting on the fence wondering if any of this is legit, you've got a 7-day refund policy. You can come in, you can talk to the guys, meet the community, watch all my training videos, get into some of these calls and these signals, and decide for yourself. So 3 useful reasons to join. Now, let's look at Atom. Pretty new coin, Cosmos, as I like to call it. I've talked about this in 1 or 2 of the recent YouTube videos. I said that it would probably go to about 5,000, and geez, we got pretty close. We got up to about 4,800 now. And I would say this trend is still intact. You can see that we had the original algorithm entry down here, beautiful triple pink Barbie into a blitz, straight over the 200 moving average. And we've had this just a really lovely, simple uptrend. No sort of solid red in here to be concerned about. Even when we sort of went in and below that 200, this wasn't really much of a big deal. The W pattern, our traders know that W means winner, M means murder. When we see that W, we always go back in. So this is a really good location, a winning location to get back in. And up here we've had a nice high as 48.11. So we're still on the way. You can see, I'll clean this up. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of times when the 50 moving average, that's this orange one, see that orange one? That 50 moving average has played a role in Atom's uptrend several times. Good place to buy. Good place to buy, good place to buy, excellent place to buy. Once again, we had that W, we got back into it, not a bad place to buy, not a bad place to buy. Yep, looks pretty good. What am I suggesting here? Guess what? Pretty sure this is a good place to buy. I wouldn't be surprised if Atom makes a new higher high. It makes a stab at that 5,000 zone, like I suggested. There's nothing really to suggest this is not going to continue well above the 200 moving average. Excellent gains on Atom in the system. I know we've got a whole bunch of traders in this and doing really well. Another one which I wanted to point out was Matic. Matic, been in the YouTube videos several times. Recently, only maybe sort of a week ago, starting this new uptrend, we saw it punch over the 50 and the 200 moving average. A pretty cyclic motion, a cycle process. It's all part of our methodology. And you can see here that we really had that sort of that cyclic up and down, the ebb and the flow. And we're actually making a whole series of new higher lows. Do I think Matic continues to go higher? I have a feeling it will. Let's have a look at it on the 4-hour and just see where we sort of are. On the 4-hour, yeah, we're really starting to look pretty good here, getting across that 200 moving average. DI positive, although the trend does seem to be sort of weakening a little bit here. So maybe not the best time to get in on the longer term for Matic right now, especially if we end up making some sort of higher low. We're very, very close to a higher low here, and we don't want this sort of thing to happen where we get into some sort of trend where we actually cycle down. So we come up and then we cycle down. So keep an eye on Matic. Probably not the best time to enter, although getting in about a week ago when our algorithms, our analysts were talking about it, was probably a really nice thing to do. We're going to have a look at NANO. NANO has had a pretty turbulent ride of recent days, and just a fantastic entry. Another algorithmic entry here. You can see a whole bunch of pink Barbies. We had a blitz candle there. We had a 250 break. This was a fantastic entry point, well documented inside our system. I know a whole bunch of traders make money on the first blitz, so this was a huge 25% move. A couple of lower highs here, but subsequent higher lows. So we had a low here, another one here, another one here, And this move back into the 50, this might be, this perhaps is our next higher low. We're seeing the ADX roll over now, but we might end up seeing a move back up into that 1,000 level. I suggested a few weeks ago that it was going to push 1,000. We can see that it's gone actually past there now, went as high as 1,200, which is really nice. So something interesting to keep an eye on with Nano. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to run out of strength. If we have a look at it on the 4-hour, it's sort of, it looks impressive, but it probably suggests that it might be a little bit too high. I think we're going to come back to this 50 moving average at some stage. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a sort of move like something like this back into the 50 moving average. We can see that there's now a decline in the DI positive rating. If we get a few little ones like this and that ADX rolls over, we might come back into the bottom of the bands, back onto that 50 moving average. So probably a bit late to get into Nano now. Excellent to get back into Nano about a week ago when we suggested, like so many of the other calls. So Nano, interesting trend, not sure it can last. One that I'm really excited about is Komodo. Talked about it in the chat platform. Algorithms and the analysts picked it up recently. Just a really, really nice looking trend. Once again, we're looking at about a sort of a 7-day trend since the last time I talked about the YouTube videos. I was mentioning Komodo. This is just a great move straight out of the 200 moving average. We're up as high as 50% in 8 days now. We went as high as 68% in 7 days. Now, once again, the 50 moving average playing an important role here, finding some sort of support here. Lovely move above the 200, really nice green Madrid average here. Continues to set higher lows and higher highs. Will we see a move back into this area where the 200 moving average comes up to meet it and another bounce towards psychological area of 1,000? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if I said this is going to 1,000, let's put a line where 1,000 is. Come on, Jonathan. There we go. Let's put a line at 1,000. Get there. Boom. Okay, close enough. If I said we come down and then eventually hit that 1,000 again and challenge it for the second time, would that seem inconceivable and weird? Probably not. I have a feeling it's got a little bit of strength. It's been going pretty nice, Komodo. Picking up volume as well, which is really interesting. Rep Augur, talked about that in a previous video, continues to make a series of higher highs. We see that algorithmic entry that I was talking about last time we did the video, came straight back into the 200 and the 50 moving average. Pink Barbie algorithm entry and another explosive move so far. Do I think Augur Rep can continue going higher? I have a feeling it's got a little bit more in it. We can run a sort of rudimentary, pretty useless kind of trend line through here. There's potentially another one here. Yeah, I think it was definitely better to get into it about a week ago. Some of these trends are starting to roll over now because Bitcoin is starting to show just a little bit more strength now. We talked about Komodo. CDT was a recent one. Really good entries. I know some guys made money off this algorithmic entry here. Nice little push across the 5200. Good little entry here. Punching as high as like 25% in 4 days. Do I think it's going to continue higher? I have a feeling that this could go a little bit higher. Pretty decent, although the 50 moving average is starting to roll over. Once again, better if you got into this a week ago. Let's drop back to the 15 minutes and look at Kava or Kava. Talked about this, of course, in the videos as well. Once again, another nice little entry down here triggered by the algorithm. Broke across the 200. The 50 moving average, once again, coming into play so many times. The 200 moving average, Pink Barbie, beautiful bounce here, up again, goes even to create a new higher high. This is a high, and this is a higher high, and this is a higher low compared to this one. So continuing higher, where do I think it's going to go? It might run all the way to 15,000. If we run a trend through here, you can see that it's only just holding onto that trend now. We're going to kind of have to see what it does from here on out. Definitely an interesting coin moving in and around that RSI cave. BLZ, what do they call this thing? Bluezel, just a spectacular trend. Picked up very early by the system. Loads of guys making money on this one now. Going as high as 38% in 2 days. Fantastic move. Lots and lots of volume here. You can see that it's broken back through that 50. Wouldn't be surprised if we go back into this bottom of the band. DI negative now. Trend fallen over. Let's throw up a Fibonacci chart and assume that this is the recent high. where do I think it's going to go? I think having gone so much that we can expect a sort of a 382 or a 50% bounce. If this 200 moving average comes up into this 50% zone, I'd say this is probably where my rebuy zone would be, and I wouldn't expect anything other than another massive bounce there. Really, really good things here. For those of you who've been trading the much longer term calls that I've been talking about in the community and also in the YouTube videos, I've said over and over again for weeks and weeks now that RLC is a great looking trend. We can see once again, just today, just recently, probably about 3 hours ago, we got another higher high. Now this RLC was documented in at least 6 or 7 of my YouTube videos. There's nothing in that trend there that would cause me to pull out of this right now. Just a fantastic looking trend, continues to go higher and higher. I'm going to go throw it out from when it broke that 200 moving average to recently 300% in 58 days. Let's just click that up. Right now it's currently sitting at 291% in 58 days. Continue to go up. We see support at the 50 moving average. Just a fantastic looking coin. Another one that we talked about early on in the YouTube videos was RCN. Very similar sort of thing, although recently had a little bit of sideways action. We saw that explosive move here, gets entangled into the 200 and the 50 moving average, and we seem to be going higher again. So let's just run a sort of a simple thing there, and remember these are 4-hour candles, so this is a fairly extensive period of time. I'm just going to pop back into the 45 minutes and I'm going to show you this particular section that I outlined. You can see that the pink Barbies were basically telling you when to buy, sort of accumulate in this area, accumulate in this area, and once again we're basically hitting the roof of this uptrend. I'd be saying this is probably the place you want to be taking profit. Wait for a retrace back here into this 200 moving average and then for another pop. So a lot of interesting coins. Some of them moving faster than others. We see CDT moving, 25 to 40% in a couple of days. RLC, RCN, XLM doing much slower gains, but they are gaining against Bitcoin, which is really interesting because a lot of people think that if Bitcoin's fallen a couple of percent overnight, or maybe 10% since it was at $10,000 and we're back down to $9,000, a lot of traders think that the fact that Bitcoin's fallen 10% is a bad thing. But here I've just picked out, like, say 15 or 20 different coins where 10% is not very much in the grand scheme of things. You can make 30 or 40 or 70% in a few days that well and truly covers that 10%. If you're not a member yet, you might want to think about joining our community and learning how to do that, because none of this is a fluke. This is all part of our custom methodology. We have analysts, we have algorithms, we have a massive technical system and a support network in place to help you make this sort of money, make you these sort of gains. It's not as difficult as you might imagine. I think I'm going to leave it there for now. Actually, one thing we'll do is we'll run up here, we'll do the summary page. I like to do this. I said in my recent video that the call percentages, the amount that the coins are moving against Bitcoin, is a little bit lower than normal, and that's because Bitcoin is essentially running sideways and a lot of people have stepped out of the market. There's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines who are not prepared to get into Bitcoin until it breaks past that $10,000 level. And so some of the volumes that we're seeing in the altcoin markets are actually pretty low compared to what normally happens. And as a result, some of the gains that our analysts and our algorithms are actually throwing out are a little bit lower than normal. So what might normally be a 15 or a 20% gain might only end up as a 6 or a 7% gain right now, because there's just less buyers and less sellers. There's less confidence in the market. Now, I'm just going to scroll down here. You can see these fantastic calls. Talked about these before. Just recently, you can see we're starting to spit out a whole bunch of short-term, nice little solid 2 and 3%ers over and over again. A couple of days in, and they start turning into 15 and 20%ers. We've got our medium-term triggers now as well. Nice little 20% move on WIN, a 52% move on NKN. I haven't even talked about a lot of these coins. Just fantastic numbers across the board on the short and medium, and even some of these long-term signals now. We're starting to see some really huge moves like we saw with RLC running 300%. I'm just going to keep rolling around. Certainly been an interesting period as Bitcoin attempts to navigate this $10,000 area. This particular stuff here, running 46% on NEO. This happened literally a couple of weeks ago, but it's still an interesting situation for NEO. Like I said, one of those top 10 coins or top 25 coins that's got the potential to generate a lot of interest. When it starts making gains, a lot of traders get back into NEO, especially on recent news. The hot signals doing all sorts of insane thing. BLZ, we talked about that, 27%, 15% here on Lend, another 12% on RCN, 18% here on Rep. We talked about Rep. A solid 20% on RLC across that 3-day gap. So big numbers, 36% on RCN. So just going to keep on scrolling down. Right, that's about it. You guys know what to do. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment if you're doing well. Our comments are kind of suppressed, to be honest. We sort of squashed those comments because we had some people coming in trying to scam people who are watching our videos by promoting other different signals groups and sort of pump and dump groups, and I'm not interested in any of that sort of stuff. If you want proper commentary, proper discourse, support, questions and answers with proper reliable information, then I suggest you become a member and join our private chat platform. There's over 1 million messages in our private chat platform. It's running on a cluster of dedicated servers. It's been running for about 2.5 years now. You can go back in time and look at any of the calls or the discussions on those particular dates, as well as the fact that we've got a searchable system that you can check out all the algorithms and the calls. You can talk to real people. You don't have to sit here in YouTube comments and chit chat with people who don't know what they're talking about. You can talk to really professional people that actually know what they're doing inside our chat platform. That's why we built it. We don't use Discord or Discourse or any of those other types of Slack platforms. We wanted to build our own system, and it's completely integrated into the fabric of our trading platform. So we're sending out the call notifications, we're sending out profit notifications, we're sending out pump and dump alerts on institutional entries, and of course our analysts are sitting there 24/7 helping everyone out. So once again, I encourage you to become a member. If you're already a member, thank you once again for your support, doing a great job. I hope you're making money here, and I look forward to Bitcoin running to 20,000, back to that all-time high again. My name is Jonathan Regan, also known as New Questions, and I hope to see you at blockchaineducation.com.au. Cheers.